Welcome back to Saturday Social. We are joined by Lyes and Laurence. Right, Joe, there's been a lot of teams in Europe haven't there, that have started unbelievably well this season. And it's led to a bit of a debate online, isn't it, about who is the best team in the world right now. Now, this debate was intensified after this clip from AFTV went viral.
I think it's a matter of time, and maybe it's now, that we start talking about Arsenal being the best team in the world or in Europe.
In the world, wow.
Who is better? There is no one right now that I look at and I say, I'm scared of playing them, or I think they'll batter us, I think they'll beat us. I think PSG are the only team right now that I think rival us for that position of one of the best, if not the best team in Europe.
Now, it's not like fans on AFTV to get ahead of themselves, is it? But
My brother should not have said that.
That's good. It has to be said, Arsenal are looking very, very strong. And there's a lot of fans. So we set Lyes a little task this week, didn't we?
Yeah, I think it's a legitimate debate.
You guys love doing this,
isn't it?
by the way.
Yeah, this is tough. We've asked Lyes to pick his top 10 teams in the world at the moment. We're in reverse order here, 10 through to 1.
This is a bit nervous about this.
Because he can only lose. It's only going to upset
You're
someone.
quite a laid-back, chill guy. You seem a bit stressed about it.
The whole week I've been just sleeping. Milan, Marseille, Lyon.
Before we get into the 10, is there any teams that narrowly missed out that you think are worth raising here?
Yeah, to be fair, I want to give a shout out to Bournemouth. You got them in front of you. I think
nice.
Bournemouth, would they be one of the first teams that you think of when you talk about the best teams in the world? But the way Iraola has these guys drilled this season, they play fantastic football. Semenyo is in the form of his life at the moment. And if this was a top 10 players in Europe this season, he might actually crack it based on the form he's showing.
That's crazy, isn't it? That we were considering Bournemouth maybe for a top 10. I mean, the league position, the results are where Anfield.
If they had beaten Palace, well, I know if they had beaten Palace, I think they would have been first going into Sunday.
They were top at a brief stage during the game.
You have to factor in how many key players they lost, particularly from that back line late on as well, and how well drilled and tactically they've done. So I think it's brilliant to raise them. I think it's also worth just touching upon any other teams as well, and how you've actually done this, what metric you
I was going to say, I wanted to give a shout out as well to Galatasaray, who, despite not playing in Europe's top 5 leagues, have been really, really impressive this season. They had some huge business this summer, and I continue to say them being able to keep Victor Osimhen, who I consider one of the best strikers in the world, is just terrific. And then the Champions League as well too. Obviously got a big win against you guys. They've looked good this season, but they just narrowly missed my top 10.
So what's your metric for the top 10? How have you decided to do this?
Yeah, and I like to map this out, right? Because I don't want there to be any confusion on how I do this. I think there's a few things I'm looking at. First and foremost, their form this season. Secondly, injuries, right? Because I think there are really good teams, but some of them have been maybe a little unlucky at the start due to players missing. And then thirdly, just how good I think you are. So maybe you didn't start the season absolutely on fire, but in my heart of hearts, I know when you kind of get back in the form, you are still one of the best teams in the world.
Okay.
So all three of those, and it's a mix, right? It's a nice little blend.
That's the metric. I like it. Good to hear the reason. Let's go with your 10th best team. We'll go in reverse order. As always, we're going to get Loz's take. I'll come to you first then, because you were... I mean, you loved that magnet when you saw it, didn't you?
Well, it's just that I know that some other people disagree with this, so I feel like I need to back up my guy.
Okay.
I also I agree. I think Milan have been really good this season, and obviously they've got the space to be able to do that with the position they're in. But they're a really great side, and they play really entertaining football, I'd say.
Yeah, top of Serie A. Why 10 for you?
I mean, look, after last night, I was about to call Sky. I might have to change.
You're stressing, by the way, when Pisa went 2-1 up. And
okay, last night, if you didn't know, they drew to the
late equaliser.
Late equaliser to the worst team in Serie A at the moment, but they are still first in the league, and it's something I don't think many people expected, right? Last season, they missed out on Europe entirely. Max Allegri returning to the club for over 10 years. Allegri may be seen as more of a defensive, pragmatic manager, but he has Milan really just back looking respectable. And I think a huge part of that as well, too, is Luka Modric, who I think at his current age, no one could have expected the impact he would have on Milan this season. But it just shows that class is permanent. He is so influential to everything they do there, playing a back three. Pulisic is in the form of his life. So I got Milan at 10th. The lack of European football hurts them a little for me.
Okay. Yeah. So Milan go in there at 10th. I think 9th is maybe controversial in some people's eyes.
Great choice.
I've gone for
Liverpool coming in 9th.
And again, this is where I'm battling with all three criteria, because again, I feel like Liverpool are still a really, really strong team. They obviously have a team that everyone hyped up at the start of the year. But 4 losses in a row, one of them being to Man United, is just difficult to say they should be much higher. Now, they have the potential, of course, to climb up this list as the season goes on. But I think at the moment, I mean, as we just depicted in the last segment, they are still working out a lot of chinks in the armor at the moment. Like, where does this player play? Should Salah be playing? It's a lot to kind of figure out at the moment, but I still believe Liverpool have one of the best squads in the world, so they have to be in my top 10.
Where would you have Liverpool on this top 10 teams in the world right now. Where
Based
would you
on
place
form,
them?
you're probably not all that far away from it, I think. And I enjoy the narrative arc that you guys are all creating for Liverpool this season, where it's like, oh, they're rubbish, they're not even in the top 5 European teams. So you keep going with it because,
I don't think anyone said they're rubbish. I think that's...
I can see it in your eyes.
Didn't say that once actually.
yeah,
Said they could climb up the.
But I think there are a lot of people who would say that's quite a low position for Liverpool. I think based on the way we're playing, and based on the fact we haven't really bedded that many of the new players in, that's fair. Do it in a couple of months. Who knows?
Yeah, no, 100%.
Give us your prediction for Liverpool. Go on. Off the fence.
Well, number one
What
in
is
the
your
world at some
prediction for
point.
Liverpool this season? What do you think you win?
Do you know what? I think it might be a Champions League.
You think Liverpool win the Champions League?
Yeah, I think we might actually be building a side that could be a bit more suited to that. And, if we rally late, then, which we probably should, we win the Champions League.
Ooh,
Okay. Moving above Liverpool, who's been your 8th best team in the world this
I've
season?
gone for Olympique Marseille. Now, similar to Milan, they're top of their respective league, and after losing their first game of the season under De Zerbi, with Marseille, they're maybe the most volatile team in the league and in the world, to be honest with you. There's always seems to be chaos, but he's done a really good job of steadying the ship since then. 6 wins out of 7. They've been incredible in goal-scoring form. I think they've scored 4 or more goals in 3 different games. In the Champions League, of course, they have 1 win, 2 losses, but they've played Real Madrid at the Bernabeu, and they played a really good game there. And I just think De Zerbi has...
Madrid at the Bernabeu.
Yeah, they should have,
Really
honestly.
unlucky
And I
there.
just think De Zerbi, look, Marseille haven't won the league since 2010. They've watched PSG, their arch rivals, just dominate that league season in, season out, and they even got one over them this year. So I think Marseille at the moment, a team to watch out for, honestly. If you're looking for a team to watch in Europe, they're really, really fun to watch.
I agree, actually. I think it's a good shout. Because they've got the joint best defence, but they're also the top scorers in their league as well. So De Zerbi's doing a lot right. 8th on the list, stick it up then. And we'll move on to your 7th best team.
Now, let me say this. This is not a team at the start of the year I thought would be anywhere near the top 10. After losing Simone Inzaghi, and of course, the way they lost that Champions League final so devastatingly. And of course, as well, too, the Club World Cup, let's not forget, they were poor.
Yeah.
They lost to Flamengo 2-0. And going into the season, I think they lost 2 of their first 3 games. I was looking at Christian Kivu as a man that potentially could have been out of a job by November. And it wasn't really his fault. It's an aging squad. It's a team that didn't really reinforce that much over the summer. And they were giving it to relatively a novice. But I give a lot of credit to Kivu because since that point, I think they've won 7 games in a row in Serie A. They're averaging about 3 goals a game. They look a bit more exciting going forward than they did under Inzaghi, which is saying a lot because under Inzaghi, they were one of the best teams in Europe. So not something I thought I'd be saying after 3 games, but give credit to Kivu. I think he's really steadied the ship. And then in the Champions League, of course, as well, 3 wins out of 3.
I think you'll give a bit of credit to Lautaro Martinez as well, right?
yeah,
Like
of course,
Lautaro,
yeah.
obviously, every season does the business for Inter, but I feel like he is putting him on his back a little bit more this season.
You know what I like
so
about Kivu
far.
as well, too? I mean, Inter, as I said, they're an aging squad. They're a team whose average age is over 30. Kivu's doing a really good job of integrating young players into the team, which is something that Inzaghi, unfortunately, just didn't do throughout his time at Inter. But now you're seeing Esposito in the team, Boni in the team. I give him a lot of credit in that regard.
Esposito could have scored about 6 midweek.
They've also not
Since
conceded,
the
yeah.
miss, so
Not
right.
conceded in the Champions League either. So, interesting pick at 7. We move on to Manchester City in 6th.
I think this is controversial.
Is it?
I think this is quite low.
I thought this was the easiest one on the list for me, to be honest with you.
Loz, your face was reaction there. What are your thoughts on City? Would you have them higher? Would you have them lower? Where would you place them?
I actually think this is fair. I think Lyes' list is really reasonable. I think they're a team. My face did have a reaction, but it is just a reaction. I think Man City at the moment are transitioning. They're sort of moving towards this new shape, and if anything, they're kind of moving towards a slightly more attacking version of what City are. They're a bit more open, and I think for that reason, that's probably why they're dropping down the list a little bit. There are moments where they've been caught. There are moments where they've not, in inverted commas, been found out. But at the same time, we were speaking about Lautaro Martinez a second ago.
Yeah.
Haaland is there for them. And I actually think
Incredible
what's
form,
weird, I think Haaland looks the best he's looked since arriving in the league, and probably the most exciting he's looked.
I think it's interesting. The reason I was saying I think I would maybe have him a little bit higher. I think across the calendar year, they are absolutely on fire. They've taken more points per game in the Premier League than any other team, more than Arsenal, more than Liverpool. Like this season, top Premier League goal scorers, Erling Haaland on fire, maybe the best goalkeeper in Europe at the moment. I think they are probably the strongest contender for Arsenal in terms of a league title competition.
I think is really interesting. Look, this season was the first one I think ever that we went into almost like downplaying City and Pep Guardiola.
Yeah.
Right? I think most people thought it would be a 2-horse race between Arsenal and Liverpool. But I feel like that's when Pep and City are at their scariest, when you almost disregard them. And they have, honestly, I agree, crept into like the conversation now where Arsenal look the strongest. We're talking about Liverpool every single week.
Yeah.
City just almost seem there. They're not playing the best football they've ever played under Pep, but they're just getting the job done. And they got a tough run of fixtures coming up. I think they got Madrid in the Champions League, Liverpool, Villa. I think if they come out of those 5-6 games coming up next a little unscathed, they might be a team we have to start talking about a whole lot more seriously.
They were 2 minutes away from winning at the Emirates.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm telling you, nobody else is going to do
I think that's a
that.
great point as well, because everyone going into this, it was Liverpool or Arsenal. Look at most pundits, most people on socials, someone either had Liverpool or Arsenal for the league, and obviously Liverpool started great and obviously beat Arsenal. Now Arsenal look formidable, but I think a lot of people are sleeping on this Man City team and the form that Haaland's showing. Keeper and a lot of other players.
They're doing a really good job right now.
Donnarumma is a big
They're doing a really good job right now of dominating both boxes. Yeah. And I think in football, if you can do that, you're going to stand a chance. When you have Donnarumma, who's maybe the best shot stopper in the world, and then Erling Haaland, who's the best goal scorer in the world, the middle is already decent. It could be a lot better. I think that's where City maybe are a little weaker than they were a few seasons back. But when you have that much quality in either box, I think you're going to be okay.
Okay.
Let's get them out then.
So you might have to help with the placement at the top.
I'm happy to do that, although I actually now have seen the next magnet, and I now think City should be higher.
Wow.
Potentially,
yeah.
Potentially, right? I think these next three, to be honest, are quite a bit close. Real Madrid, I've gone for in fifth.
What have you made of them under Xabi Alonso at the start of the season?
Honestly, underwhelming, but I think because I expected so much more. However, when you look at it at the same time too, they are top of the league. They've only lost one game this season. They've won all 3 games in the Champions League, so they're getting the job done. They can only win, right? But I did think that we were maybe going to see a bit more of an expansive style from Real Madrid, a bit more of an identity that you would... Because I think over the last few years, they've been winning non-stop. But under Ancelotti, under Zidane, you never really thought that Real Madrid were a team that played a certain brand that you could just recognize. And I did think Alonso would come in on, maybe not on day one, but that would be a real... You'd see his fingerprints on the team. Right now, they're just getting by, in my opinion. They have a huge game this weekend against Barcelona. And I mean, hey, I have the order pretty close, as you guys are going to see. Maybe that changes after this weekend, but... I give him a lot of credit too. Kylian Mbappe, he looks back to his best. I can't say that after last season, so...
Yeah.
Right now, I have them fifth.
Loz, go on. You have in a slightly different order you were alluding to there.
I would put City above Real Madrid this season. I think they've bedded into their new system a little bit better, and I think I just see more output from City. I know Real Madrid are top of their league, but I consider what City are doing to be just that little bit more of a challenge, and I kind of just respect what Pep's doing, I guess, a little bit more. I still think they haven't bedded a few guys in, and I'm not quite sure that Alonso's managed to get that ideology over to all the players. He's again, halfway house for me.
I would say with Real Madrid, right, the attack for me still feels a little disjointed.
Yeah.
Especially, I'm still, like, Mbappe and Vinny, I still don't know how that works at the highest level.
Yeah.
But one thing I'll give them, right, last season, defensively, they were a mess under Ancelotti. That was the biggest issue for them. They had no balance in their midfield. Defensively, they were at 6s and 7s. He has got them a lot more organized than they were last season. But I think going forward, that's still where I think they have another few levels to go as Real Madrid.
They're an intriguing team because obviously they won 11 out of 12 games in all comps, but the one they've lost was a hammering in a derby to Atletico 5-2.
Yeah,
so I know what you're
it's
saying about it's hard to judge really in terms of where exactly they are, but I think it brings us nicely on to the next magnet.
Their
You
opponents
mentioned
this
one
weekend.
big team from La Liga, and you've got the other one.
Yeah, El Clasico this weekend. It's going to tell us a lot about both of these teams. Now, some people would ask, why is Real Madrid above Barcelona? This kind of goes into my other criteria, which was injuries. Barcelona have had a lot of injuries this season. I don't think they've been able to line up with their front three of Rafinha, Lewandowski, and Yamal many times, which was so devastating last season. Joan Garcia has missed time. I think when Barcelona, everyone is healthy and fit, I think they're a better team than Real Madrid. And I think the reason they are below them at this point is just because there's been so many different moving parts. But these guys, when at full fitness, they are still one of the most devastating teams in the game.
I've got to ask you about Marcus Rashford. You're a United fan. 5 goals, 4 assists in 12 appearances. We've seen some of the quality of some of those goals as well. What are your thoughts on how well Marcus Rashford is doing in a Barcelona shirt? Because he looks like he is loving life there.
It's not a shock to me whatsoever. Marcus Rashford's a very talented player. I think anybody who watches football knows there's a lot of quality there. And for me, going to Hansi Flick, who I almost call the attacker whisperer, this guy made Serge Gnabry a Ballon d'Or contender. For me, any attacker worth their salt going to that team is going to bag goals. Lewandowski, the season before Hansi Flick came back to Barca, people were saying should be off to Saudi. He scored 40 goals last season.
Yeah.
Any attacker going to Hansi Flick's team is going to thrive. And I look at the pace Rashford has, the ability, the ball striking. He's a top player. And I think as well too, getting out of that environment at Man United, it hurts me to say because he's one of our own. I saw his debut. I was there in the flesh, right? We wanted it to happen there, but he was always going to bang at Barcelona, in my opinion.
Okay,
up he goes.
Now we go on to the top 3.
Here comes the controversy.
Here we go.
Well, amongst the AFTV fans.
Well, you guys make him sound like ultras.
What would Robbie Lyle be saying now if he saw you?
So why have you got Arsenal
Not appropriate for TV.
Robbie just smashed his TV in the living room. Yeah.
Why have you got Arsenal third?
I think the 2 teams above them are just a hint a little better at the moment. I mean, it's tough to say, right? I think Arsenal right now look ridiculous. They are so complete. They're so. I think they have the highest floor in football at the moment. Because they're so difficult to beat.
Depth as well, I think, is a key word with Arsenal. There's a lot of these teams now, you alluded to that quite rightly.
Yeah.
Take a couple of players out of the Barcelona team or City's team, you lose a Haaland. There is so much depth, particularly in that back line, but also going forward. You forget the injuries they've currently got still.
Yeah.
And it's not noticeable because they've built such a strong squad.
These guys, they got goals this season.
Yeah, they've got 2 players in every position, and it just feels like next man up. And the next man up is typically a world-class player. But yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is their floor is just crazy. The last 2 games in the Prem, they haven't conceded a shot. Or was it shot on target or a shot? Yeah, shot on target, excuse me. Like, how do you beat them at the moment? Aerially, they're dominant. They can play in a mid block. They can play in a low block. They can play at high line. They can beat you off set pieces. They can beat you on counterattacks. They just seem like the most versatile team at the moment.
They feel inevitable, which is a real real thing for me. Whether they're home or away, and especially at the Emirates, you can feel the crowd just know something is coming. And the thing with Fulham was, I actually think Fulham created some good chances. Harry Wilson was really electric and really, really alive. But there's always then that, we could go down the other end. And when it's not just the goal that they want to get the ball into, you can just get it for a corner or whatever, and suddenly they've got an opportunity.
For them, a corner's as good as a goal.
Yeah, the tension in the game just rises so much.
Do you think they win the league? Because when I asked you earlier about Liverpool this season, a prediction, you said you think they might win the Champions League. Is that you? I'm not going to say giving up. But
I'm not conceding,
You think your
Smithy,
prediction is Arsenal will win the Premier League, do you?
I think so, because I also think, as Arteta said himself, and he's been vindicated in a lot of his past comments this season, it's all about timing. And his timing is kind of coming into place now. He's made those correct signings with Zubimendi and Eze and all those different guys. At the same time, I also think those signings have taken them up yet another level.
Definitely.
And I know we're talking about open plays from open goal, open goals from open play, but, you know, come on. This side is still putting
They
a load
dominate
of
all
chances
phases
together.
of the game. I think that's the thing for them, honestly. It does feel at times Guardiola went to the Emirates and parked the bus. And he doesn't do that just to give them the ball. He did that because he knew his team couldn't compete with Arsenal on a level footing in that game. At the moment, they look ridiculous. But you ask why are they not first? I have 2 really, really good teams above them.
So you've got Arsenal third.
Arsenal
Third
3.
there. Disagree
And this
with
is...
AFTV.
Yeah, just a reminder, this is Lyes ranking the top 10 teams in the world right now. So we go on to the big 2.
I mean, some could argue these guys should be first.
I would definitely have them 1. And the simple metric for me is they're the only team in Europe's top 5 leagues to win every game in all competitions. So
What about their striker, Smithy? Is that something you really care
He's a very
about?
good player.
I've never heard Smithy talk about him.
But I think it's very difficult at this stage because obviously you can argue comparative leagues. Even within the Champions League that they all play in, the top teams, they play different teams within the Champions League. So the metric for you is difficult, I understand that. But they are the only team to have won every game
They
in
have
all
the
competitions.
best start to a top 5 league team ever. Like the way they've started the season, they've won every single game. They're scoring goals for fun. They maybe have the best player in the world, depending on how you would view it. I definitely think he's up there.
Yeah.
Luis Diaz is
But
very
big
good.
question, big question. If they were to play Arsenal tomorrow, who would win?
Well, funny enough, they're playing them soon, so we get to find
Who
out.
do you think would win?
I think it'd be a really tough game. Look, could Arsenal beat them? Absolutely. I completely agree with the gentleman on AFTV who said, I don't fear any team in the world, as they shouldn't. I think Arsenal could go toe-to-toe with anybody. But at the same time, too, I don't really feel comfortable just hurting Bayern because they don't choose who to play. They play Chelsea in the Champions League. They absolutely wiped the floor with them. So at the moment, they've played the teams available to them, and they've won every single game. They're scoring goals for fun, and they have Kane, who's playing in the form of his life.
Lyes as well. Leonard Carl, by the way, 17 years of age.
Crazy.
Debut goal.
Look, Kane is
And man of the match
Kane
in
is the
17.
name that we have to talk about, of course, right? But I want to give a big shout out to Vincent Kompany as well, too. Because when he took over this job,
Just signed a new contract as well.
Yeah, I was very skeptical. I mean, look, at Burnley, it didn't go the way anyone really thought it would. And taking over Bayern, I think a lot of people thought, has he deserved that job, right? How can you get relegated with Burnley to go to Bayern?
Yeah.
But I think it's shown that environment is everything. And this looks like the most serious Bayern team that I've seen since maybe Hansi Flick was there when they won the Champions
Scored
League.
44 goals.
Best ever start to the Bundesliga season. When you think how many times they've won the Bundesliga as well. And the Kane numbers are phenomenal. Leonard Carl, we've mentioned, a lot going right. Which does leave 1 spot. So the best team in the world right
This is a
now.
bit controversial, man.
For you, you've gone PSG.
Champions respect, man. Look, they're still the team to beat for me. And again, I go back to the injury talk. They've missed players for a lot of time. I mean, Ousmane Dembele missed a big part of the season so far. Desiree Doué has missed time. João Neves has missed time. It has been a bit of a rotating unit, but I still think when everybody is healthy for every single team, PSG are still the team to beat in Europe. I still think a lot of teams are even trying to replicate the way they play. I look at Liverpool, for example. I think you listen to the way Arne Slot talks. I think he's really influenced by the way this side is almost deployed. And I think when everyone is fit, man, they are just an imperious unit. And I keep going back to their fullbacks. You know I'm in love with Nuno Mendes and Hakimi. They are ridiculous. And the way they're playing, no matter who's available. I mean, look, even with the injuries, they went to Barcelona. They went to the Camp Nou. They went to Spain. They beat Barcelona, for me, quite convincingly in the way that they played. They just demolished Bayer Leverkusen 7-2 away from home. I think everyone healthy, from all of these teams, these are still the guys to beat.
Loz, thoughts?
Hard to disagree with. And also, I think they are still slightly ahead of everyone else in terms of just where they're at in their life cycle.
Yeah.
I think Bayern are still coming up. I think Arsenal about to hit that peak. I'd be interested to see where we think that peak is, maybe a bit later in the season. These guys, for me, also play the most entertaining kind of brand of football.
Yeah.
And I like that they're open and yet still manage to dominate games.
Yeah.
All right, so there we have Lies's top 10 teams in world football right now.
I can finally
Great
sleep
list.
this week, man.
Yeah, great list.
Finally sleep. Yeah, let us know what you think of that at home and in the comments.